Cuomo is not calling it quits. The former New York governor says he's staying in the race for New York City's mayor as an independent.
The fight to save our city isn't over. Only 13% of New Yorkers voted in the June primary. The general election is in November, and I am in it to win it. My opponent, Mr. Mamdani, offers slick slogans, but no real solutions.
Now, Cuomo lost the Democratic primary in June to Zohran Mamdani by 12 points. Now, also still in the race, New York's current mayor, Eric Adams, also running as a third-party candidate. So you basically have two established Democrats running as independents. What's it going to take for Mamdani to keep his momentum going? Bringing it back to the group chat. And before we started, Chuck, you actually cracked your knuckles on this one. You were so interested in talking about
no
this.
No more foreign policy. Let's talk about an election.
So what's the deal?
The deal is there's a general election in November where more people should show up to vote than in a primary. In a primary, you have a smaller group of folks. We all know that. I don't mean to talk so elementary this early in the morning. But there was a poll out yesterday that didn't surprise me where Mamdani had about 40% of the support. That means that 60% of New Yorkers would like to vote for somebody else. That sounds great for Mr. Cuomo. Here's the bad news, is that's going to be split up amongst, as you mentioned, at least three credible candidates, two for sure with the mayor that's currently there and Cuomo, who was the governor. So the only way that they have a chance really to beat him is they have to consolidate. They need to have a meeting and be like, okay, let's all work together and have one of us run, or it's going to be really hard to beat him in November.
What kind of test is this for Mamdani and, more importantly, like the coalition he represents?
Well, it's going to require him to go beyond the coalition that he won with that 13%. Andrew Cuomo is not wrong about that. He might be wrong about a host of other things, but he's not wrong about that. So it's going to require Mamdani to go beyond. Obviously, he'll be in D.C. He's going to be looking for more money so that they can do more things on social media and they can basically track a larger footprint. But I don't necessarily see him watering down his policies.
Well, why if you have two, why if you have two kind of establishment guys running on similar type things, you're nodding?
Well, no, that's what I was going to ask my friend Chucky here. Do you really think that the current mayor and Cuomo can come together? Because I agree with you 100%. I do think the establishment voters are going to come out during the general that they maybe didn't during the primary because they're nervous about Mamdani winning. But do you think the two egos can combine?
It's really hard. In politics, there's things that politicians really love, and normally that's themselves. And that's what the problem is with these meetings that normally don't happen. And I've been in lots of them.
Yeah, I was about to say, this meeting sounds like fanfic to me. Like, they're going to sit down and two egos are going to be like, no, I'll...
He was reading earlier.
There's one thing for sure, though, that there's no way anybody's going to beat Mamdani, and he's running a good campaign. Like, we're not giving him credit for really doing something very special, and so, like, he's running a good campaign, and the only way to defeat him in November, ironically, I found out yesterday that a bunch of this is breaking news here at CNN, a bunch of Biden-Harris consultants are working for Cuomo. So they're still a little mad, and they're still losing every day. So I'm sure they're trying to figure out one way to spend more money.
Also on X, Dan Pfeiffer, former staffer for former President Obama, talking about this campaign ad that we saw and saying this is one of the least compelling campaign videos that I have ever seen. No message, no charisma, no compelling visuals, just a visibly annoyed man wearing an ill-fitting shirt saying things he clearly doesn't believe.
I agree with that.
Just like Harris and Biden. You just made my point for me. Oof. Like, it's the same group of folks making the same thing and we expect different results. Please help me this early in the morning.
OMG.
You said it. Not me.
About the shirt, the visuals, what the message,
it's just
what
hit
part?
after hit after hit.
While Mamdani is running up and down the streets of talking to folks.
Yeah, I just think it's frankly just so apparent that Cuomo puts off such a huge sector of New Yorkers, and maybe that's why only 13% of people voted. And so I think they really have to work on whether or not he is a likable candidate. Now, Eric Adams, he may not be a likable mayor, but people do like him. Yeah. They find him funny, they find him engaging, and they never know what he's going to say. Cuomo doesn't have that effect, and so he has to figure out what it is that he can bring to the race that's not just kind of this elder statesman that feels out of touch.
The other thing is, do they find you useful? Meaning, in this Trump era, what can you do for the city? And I raise that because there are Republicans in New York City, there are independents, there are people who were so concerned about crime or immigration, et cetera, that we saw really surface in the last election.
And that's the Eric. I mean, I would say that they would vote for the current
They
mayor.
vote the general. That's the point I was
Yes,
trying to make earlier.
yes.
It's only 13% in the general. There'll be double that for the general, and independents and Republicans could actually vote in the general election.
Is there anything, and I want to leave this with you, is there anything that you're going to see Mamdani do that other young Democrats are starting to do around the country? I was noticing a young Deja Fox. She's an activist
Election days today.
in Arizona. But if you want to break through, has he created some kind of template?
There's two things you have to do really good, and even old Bernie Sanders back in the day kind of hit this. You got to have a really good field and actually still run a media program that's really based around social media and digital. Digital forward campaigns are the campaigns of the future. That's what the relics of the old Democratic Party needs to get used to.
Former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo says he will continue his fight to be the next mayor of New York City following his shocking defeat to Zohran Mamdani in the Democratic primary just a few weeks ago.
Hello, I'm Andrew Cuomo. And unless you've been living under a rock, you probably know that the Democratic primary did not go the way I had hoped. The fight to save our city isn't over. Only 13% of New Yorkers voted in the June primary. The general election is in November, and I am in it to win it.
The former governor is now running in the general election as an independent and will be on the ballot line under his own Fight and Deliver party. If you take a look at this, though, at the top of the hour right now, as we are here, Mamdani's fundraising link reply to Cuomo's post has gotten more than 31 times the likes that the former governor's original post got. It's subjecting Cuomo's launch to one of the most mortifying things in the age of social media politics, a ratio. Nobody wants that. My political sources are here. Former communications director for the Democratic National Committee, Karen Finney, and editor at the National Review, Ramesh Ponnuru. And it's great to have you both. Karen, what did you make of the 90-second video from the former governor today? And are you surprised he's staying in the race?
I'm not surprised he's staying in the race because we've been hearing that there are other interests in New York City who would like to see someone other than Eric Adams taking on Mamdani. So not surprised on that. Look, I think the issue, though, for Cuomo is going to be how is he going to run this race between now and the general? What I understand is he wasn't visible in the primary. People felt like there was too much of a air of, I got this, I'm going to walk in and run away with it. Does he do the work? Does that convince voters that he is the right candidate? And can Mamdani, I mean, he's did a great job in the primary, reaching out to voters, being creative, but now he's got to show that he could be mayor, that he could run one of the most complex, complicated cities in our country with a sprawling budget and try to bring some of those ideas to fruition.
Yeah, how are Republicans watching all this play out?
Well, Republicans are, they're conflicted as well, because on the one hand, they think Mamdani's good for the Republican Party, not just in New York, but nationally. On the other hand, they also genuinely believe Mamdani would be bad for the city and therefore would like to see somebody consolidate support and opposition for Mamdani, but that's just not happening right now, right? I mean, if Cuomo is running and the Republican Kurt Sliwa is running and Eric Adams is all running, it is vanishingly unlikely that any one of those three wins, and Mamdani has a pretty much golden ticket.
Which kind of surprises me when we look at House leadership here, House and Senate leadership for Democrats. Both of them are from New York. Mm-hmm. Neither have endorsed Zohran Mamdani. Not Hakeem Jeffries, not Chuck Schumer yet. Hakeem Jeffries is going to be meeting with him in Brooklyn later this week. He said that there are no plans to meet with Eric Adams or Andrew Cuomo right now. But what do you make of how that they've been on the sidelines after he had such a big defeat of Cuomo?
Well, he's not. He's someone who has, I think, very intentionally run outside of the party. So I think both from the perspective of his campaign and for these leaders, I expected that there would be a little bit of distance. I think it's good that they're going to have a meeting and then they'll decide where they want to be on this. I mean, to exactly what you just said, there's an awareness that Democratic Socialist title, right, is not the label people are looking for. But at the same point, he's been the leading candidate, and so they absolutely should meet with him and kind of kick the tires and see, in terms of his ideas and his ability to deliver.
Well, in his win, I think you saw a lot of pundits and political types watching and saying, this is proof that Democrats need to do X, Y, and Z, that you're not listening to the voters.